You're listening to the AVIT Amplifier. Each week, we'll feature voices and ideas that need to be amplified in the higher education and pro-AV IT communities. This show is brought to you by higheredav.com. And now here's your host, Ryan Gray.
Well, hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us again for the AVIT Amplifier. I am your host, Ryan Gray, and we are back for week 2 with your good friend and mine, Miss Gina Sansivero. Gina, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Ryan. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And for if anybody missed last week, stop now, go back and listen to last week's episode. You don't want to miss it. But if anybody did, could you remind everybody, Gina, who are you and what do you do?
Sure, I can do that. My name is Gina Sansivero. I am Vice President of Marketing and Corporate Communications at Atlas IED, and I am also a founding board member at WAVIT, Women in AV IT.
And I encourage everybody to listen to that first episode so you can hear more about WAVIT. Dive into that because there are so many opportunities, and I'll throw out there to mention that extending the founding member opportunity for the next 3 months, Q1 of 2024. So jump in on that. All right, Gina, you ready? Buckle in. Here come the real serious questions.
Oh boy.
Do you consider yourself an introvert or an extrovert?
I consider myself an extroverted introvert. And you want to know the reason? Because there's some stupid thing going around Instagram right now that is giving you like a little opportunity to see into what that actually means. Who knows if it's true or not. But the definition is to me kind of almost exactly the way I feel. And that is, people give me energy. I love being around good people. I love being around my people. That's why I love this industry. You got to get sucked in. And if you get sucked into an industry and you find your passion here, it's because the people are around you are your community. That's where you're supposed to be, right? So why would you ever leave? I totally feel like that. But I'll tell you, I get back from a day or two on the road in these meetings where I'm so completely jazzed and amplified and happy, and I need quiet. Yeah. Like I'll go home and I'll just sit down with a book, and there's days, and I love music. There's days when I won't even turn on my music. I will sit down with a book and just have silence for a couple of hours. And I just need a little bit of time to recharge. So maybe I'm like a little bit of an extroverted introvert. I don't know. Maybe the definition is just so ridiculous and I'm making it up. But that's the way I feel. I do really think that people are my passion, though.
Yeah, and that is a very common answer, right? That feeling of I'm both. That I think in the long run, everyone is some of both, right? You can't be on all the time. Even the most extroverted people have to have recharge. You have to have quiet and that sort of thing. But yeah, that feeling of I get energy from other people, it sounds like that is a pretty serious through line that you feel about yourself.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Could you tell us about one of the best days of your life?
Oh, gosh. That's a really, really good question. I've had many best days of my life. I would say recently, the best day of my life was my son's college graduation. I was so proud as a single mom to be able to get him to the point where he was independent, successful, and following what he wanted to do. Not because I told him where to go or his father told him where to go or my parents told him where to go, but because he made a decision for himself, which to me really indicated a mature look at his future. And to me, it indicated that he was kind of ready. And as much as I wasn't ready for him to be ready, he was ready. So I think recently, within the past 2 years, that's the best day of my life. I could also say things like, the day he was born and all of that. But I think it's okay to have multiple best days.
100%.
I think you should have a lot of best days.
You should, and you should have them for different reasons. I mean, I think talking about your son graduating and that feeling of, or like you said, almost them taking ownership of their own process and future, that is difficult for a parent, but also kind of the most rewarding part of it at the same time. My daughter just started her first semester of college, and so we've been doing a lot of the same, which is turning loose, and understanding that most of our influence has kind of come and gone, and watching her navigate and become the person that she wants to be is actually really rewarding, I think.
I would absolutely agree with that. And when I say you have to have many best days, I don't think they compete with each other for once you have a second best day, it doesn't negate the first best day. Like this summer, my promise to myself was that I was going to try things that I've never done before.
Okay.
And so in July, my cousin and I went down to Maryland and we learned how to sail. So we took a 4-day sailing course down in Maryland and learned all the parts and pieces of a sailboat and how to sail it and all of that stuff. And it was so energizing. It was incredibly fulfilling. It was something that doesn't have to do with work, doesn't have to do with, anything other than it brought me happiness. It brought me something new to learn, right? And that was just incredible for me. When I graduated, so at the end of the 4th day, you go into this little classroom with some other students and they give you a test that's like 100 questions, and if you pass it, you get your ASA 101, which is your American Sailing Association 101 certificate. And when I got my certificate, I wanted to jump. I might have jumped up and down. I wanted to jump up and down so bad. It felt like the biggest accomplishment I've had in the past 20 years, right? Since I graduated college. I was more proud at that moment of my ASA 101 than I was of my degree. I went home, I bought a plaque, I put it in the plaque, like I haven't hung it yet because I don't know where I'm going to hang it, but I was so thrilled. That was a best day. Right.
All right, so I got to dive into that because so you're a certified sailor, you say? That's awesome. I love that. And but you mentioned the accomplish. So we work in an industry that thrives on certifications. And this is that sort of, you have 4 days, you have to gain knowledge, prove you have the knowledge, put it to use, and then get a acknowledgement, a certificate or something like that. And that process of acquiring knowledge, being assessed for it, and then having the achievement. There's almost like a gamification for it. So, working in higher ed, why do you think that piece of paper is so exciting, or is it more what that piece of paper means to you that got you jumping up and down?
Oh, it's definitely what it means to me. I mean, you get to a certain age, right, and you're like, couple of decades past college, and there's always something new to learn, but there's never quite that same finish, right? Mm-hmm. And listen, there's an ASA 102, 103, 105, 107, right? I can go through all of these, and I can learn how to circumnavigate the globe using stars if I wanted to. And I don't know if that's where I want to go. But telling myself that I can learn something so completely new at my age, and then having tangible proof that I can teach myself. I mean, not that I had a captain who taught, but that I could teach myself something new, like having that tangible evidence for it. Gosh, there is something to be said for that.
I agree. So in higher ed, there's such a movement in that direction to the credentialing and the idea of micro-credentialing that produces outcomes for people. And it fits sort of our world of of bite-size learning or bite-size accomplishments that, as you said, it's not the end of the road. That is step one, but you get to celebrate step one and you get to hang your hat on it. And then you get to tell other people that I have this accomplishment. Anyways, I just love the psychology of that someone in your position as accomplished as you can step into this other world and find something so fulfilling. Because it shows an internal capability, not just that, of course, that you can say it, like you said, but that you can take on something new, learn it, and feel that there's now a new, like, growing level of expertise that you didn't have before.
Yeah, it's so exciting to know that even with a full-time job, a kid, family around, all of the responsibilities that you have in your day to day that might or might not have been there, when you were in college, you were able to dedicate yourself back then, because that felt like the natural progression of how you saw your life, how you were taught to see your life going from high school to college. And to be like, for those people who are able to go back to college and get their master's degree after not having been in college for 2 decades, or 25 years or 30 years, that is incredible to me, because that takes so much focus. But to your point, taking yourself out of your career, the responsibilities that you have, and saving some space in your really, really, really crowded brain for learning something new, even if it is 4 days, even if it is a CTS or a CTSD or a CTSI, or even if it is your ASA 101 or whatever you want to go for, it's possible. Like, who knew it was possible until I stepped foot on that boat? I was like, this is going to be a disaster. And I stepped foot on that boat. And you know what the captain said? Go stow your gear. Yeah. And I had to put my electronics down under, right? Yep. And I didn't touch it but once a day in the morning. Well, maybe twice a day. Once in the morning and once after dinner, before I went to bed, just to make sure that my family was okay. But other than that, I had no connections. And it was forced and it was freeing.
Yeah. Yeah. Buckle in. You know what I'm saying? You're here to do something serious. And that's fair. What a great story. Thank you for sharing that. All right. You ready?
Thank you.
Aretha Franklin, Whitney Houston, Mariah Carey, Adele, or Beyonce?
I think Aretha Franklin.
Why?
I think that woman has so much soul, and she was a trailblazer. And if there's anyone from that, and don't get me wrong, all of them were in their own right, but the way women and people of color were treated when Aretha Franklin was starting out, so completely different than the others.
Yeah. So that's
my answer.
That's a good answer, and a popular answer on the show. So if you had to dive in then to Aretha Franklin, is there any part of her music that you think is affected or, comes along the lines of the environment that music had to get made in?
Oh, you ask difficult questions. For sure, her ability to create emotion with her voice is probably one of the things that's most memorable and enveloping about her, right? So you really have this sense of struggle, or this sense of pride, or this sense of elation, just through how she uses her vocal skills. And what I love is that you're able to go on this journey with her, even if you haven't necessarily experienced what she's experienced. I think that pull through is so powerful. It's what makes so many singers and songwriters so engaging, is really just the way that they use their talents to bring you on their journey. Then how their journey is also so relevant to you, whether or not you realize it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And well, we could go down a whole rabbit hole on that, which would be fun to do sometime. But yeah, that sort of cross section.
Maybe over a drink at Infocom.
That's a deal. You got a deal on that. But yeah, bringing people using your talent to bring people to a place that you would have had a hard time getting them to otherwise is absolutely part of that. Okay, so here's your next difficult question.
Oh gosh.
Are people generally good with a proclivity for evil, or generally evil with a proclivity for good?
I think it's the former. I think people are generally good. And there's always exceptions to rules, though, but I don't think that I would be the person that I am. And I don't think that I would be able to get up in the morning and want to be a productive member of this society if I didn't believe that inherently people are good. They want, and they want to be a part of a community, and people who are good are accepted into a community. With everything that we've learned about how awful human beings can be, I still believe that the absolute majority of people, more than the majority of people, really just want a sense of belonging.
Yeah.
And that happens when you're a good person, when there's kindness, when there's compassion, when there's empathy.
So how does that perspective, I mean, you mentioned it would be hard to get up in the morning, if you didn't believe that people were good. So when you do get up and you head out into the world, how do you use that perspective to kind of inform how you move through it?
I try to remind myself to have patience. For those people who know me, patience is not my virtue. And so I remind myself to have patience, because you don't know. And this is a very common thought process. So I'm not making anything up that's new. It's not earth-shattering, but you don't know what people are going through. And it's so difficult to sit in your car as you're driving to work or a meeting or Starbucks in the morning. And it's so hard to let other people in. You are literally secluded. And I think so many people get used to that seclusion and go through life assuming that when they're in their car and nobody else is affecting them and they're not affecting anybody else. Well, for me, it takes a level of patience with myself and with others to invite people into my seclusion, right? And so I have to be very conscious of creating that environment where I allow others in and I let myself be brought into others' seclusion. Because again, we are very much community-oriented animals. We like society in general. Again, there's always those who don't, but I believe truly we've become so disconnected that we think that everything that's happening in this world is happening to us, but in fact, it's happening with us.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Okay, so I love that perspective actually, and to tie in the idea of inviting people into your seclusion from someone who talked about themselves as such an extrovert. It sounds like that concept of my seclusion or my bubble of safety almost is a key part of that. What is that? How you see when you talk about bringing people into your seclusion or being into other people's seclusion? Is there a level of trust that you're talking about there, or is it more along the lines of the patience thing you said of understanding that everyone is different, and so we have to be more welcoming? Well, that was a word salad of a question right there. I don't think I got across any of what I was actually thinking, but I've never heard anybody say it that way before, that inviting someone into my seclusion. What does that really mean to you?
Because I think that so many people have become adept at creating their own little world for themselves, and they believe, and especially as you get older, right? You believe the story that you've told yourself. You believe that things are happening to you rather than with you. So when I mean bringing people into your own seclusion, it's really the world view that you've built for yourself, and it, for me, it physically manifests itself when you're sitting in your car, because in general, there's likely, I mean, you could have your kids, your dog, or whatever in there with you, but there's likely nobody in there with you. There's walls around you, and there's walls around the other people who are next to you. And so if you think of it in those terms with that car, it does take trust, right? It takes trust that that person that's in the Dodge next to you has a driver's license and knows how to drive, right? And it takes trust that you are focused enough in yourself, you are focused enough on the road ahead of you to not put others in danger. Similarly, when you're inviting other people into your seclusion, into your worldview, into your, trusted little bubble that you've created, you have to trust yourself to have a good judge of character, right? Because sometimes you're taking a leap of faith by inviting others into your world. And then you also have to trust others to be inherently good. Yeah. So that if something doesn't necessarily run smoothly, go well, you don't see a benefit in the interaction, there's always something that you can try to take from it and find through compassion and empathy that goodness in somebody else.
Yeah, that's it. And it seems like you also have to be ready as you invite people into your worldview for their worldview to challenge your own, as sort of the antidote to, like you were saying, there's so much about today that people can reinforce their existing worldview or their, and contribute to that, things are happening to me feel, rather than I'm a participant in the overall community, that we have to. So it goes back to our discussion last week of the value of diversity of thought and opinion in any group, because it can challenge that group think to have people of multiple worldviews, or in this case, people of multiple seclusions, coming together to challenge each other's thought process.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And, one of the things that I think that people don't do enough is ask questions. I ask a lot of questions. I'm always asking why. I think my VP of sales wants to kill me half the time, because I'm always like, well, what if we do it this way? I don't know. Why? Why should we do it that way? Where should we go from here? Why did you choose to do it in that way, and when I would have thought about it this way? So let's go through your thought process, right? I love asking questions. I would hate to be in a space where everybody agreed with me all the time. I would hate that, because I challenge others and play devil's advocate because I want to learn, and I want to be around other people who want to learn. So I don't know, that would drive me nuts if people don't ask questions more.
Right, and there are people in time where a sense of agreement feels comfortable, and there's kind of a comfort. We talk about comfort versus change a lot, and the idea that you don't if you're always in a place where you're super comfortable, then you're not going to grow. You don't want to be in a place that is so uncomfortable that it's that it's intimidating. But even to your learning experience you talked about, get yourself into a place that is not your everyday, where you're exposed to something new, and is a place where it is that kind of growth zone, out of your comfort zone, but not into your, total anxiety zone, as it were.
Yeah. That's tough for a lot of people, right? I mean, that's that concept of an anxiety zone. It's so true, because you have these concentric circles, right? You have your real comfort zone, and then you have this is a little bit of discomfort. This is a reach, right? Yeah. And then you have your anxiety zone, and that's the scariest place to be.
And to have that feeling like I can step into that first circle without the slippery slope of I'm going to end up in that, being totally overwhelmed, and take that risk and go back and forth. Yeah. All right. Well, I think you've got a book on education psychology that you could write out of that concentric circle diagram that you just put up right there. I'll do the forward for it. I think that'll be great. Okay, so if you couldn't have worked in AV or in technology, right? The version of the multiverse where you didn't end up working in technology, what's another profession that you think you would have enjoyed doing? And you're not allowed to say sailor of a ship because you already used that one.
Oh my God, that's so funny. So I'll tell you in all reality what I was going to do before I got into AV. But if I had like that fantasy world, I would work with animals, but I wouldn't be able to be a vet. Like I couldn't go to that level of, but I would work with animals. And one day I think part of my semi not working as full-time as I work now, retirement-ish plan is I will volunteer to work with animals. So one day maybe. But I was going to school. My bachelor's degree is in psychology. I was going to school to be a teacher and ended up changing to psychology. And I wanted to be a high school guidance counselor. Like I wanted to help students find what was important to them. Yeah. Right. And so that's what, if I could go back into my multiverse and figure out where I would want to be, I think I would go back to being a guidance counselor.
I think you would be a fantastic guidance counselor.
Really?
Yeah,
Are you
of course.
Saying that?
No, from one, what I know of you, and to your answers here, you're dialed in. Like, yeah, you're articulating exactly how to connect with people and understand their needs and desires, to the point that you even described the pride that you feel in your son and their accomplishments, you know what I'm saying, and them taking ownership. Like that 100% tracks. 100% tracks.
Thank you.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
What would you do?
Me? Oh, I don't. So I probably would have ended up somewhere in education, no matter what. I come from a family of educators, and so a teacher or some other, something along those lines probably would have happened. I just ended up gravitating back towards technology and the technology side. So, I used to do live events, so sort of melding those together of going, all right, I'm going to work in education. I believe a ton in education being, having the answers to a lot of societal problems. So, that, I think that was a good thing. Thank you for asking. But yeah, I like people to have to listen to me talk too much to think that I might not make a good professor, because most professors also like to have people have to listen to them talk. So, all right. Everyone gets the same last three questions. You ready? Yes. First of the last three questions. What is a question that you wish people would ask of you, but they never do?
What's my favorite dinosaur?
What's your favorite dinosaur?
Okay, it's the cutest dinosaur in the world. And when you look him up, because you probably don't know what he looks like, you'll be like, oh my God, I totally see it. But this dinosaur looks like he could be like the first dinosaur dog. Like he looks like he could be a pet, because he's a little four-legged guy, and he has this little round nose, and he's like the cutest thing. So it's called Protoceratops.
Protoceratops.
Proto ceratops. Yeah. And he's kind of smaller. And I feel like if I were alive during the time of dinosaurs, he would be my pet. Is he not the cutest thing? I know you're like
the cutest thing.
Thank you.
I will link to the Protoceratops on this. That's awesome. So my family and I, we have a little video game that we play together that is a survival type thing in an era of dinosaurs. And so there are real dinosaurs and not real dinosaurs in it. And some of them are very cute dinosaurs. And this one I think would fit. It almost has like mouse ears on the top up there. It's very cute. All right, great question. See, this is why it's worth finding, because I never would have learned about a Protoceratops any other way.
See?
Nice. All right, second to last question is, how could people find you, get connected, or learn more about WAVIT?
Okay, so I am on LinkedIn, Gina Sansivero. I am on Twitter at Gina Sans. I am you can email me, gina.sansivero@atlasig.com, and you can find us at womeninavit.org if you'd like more information about WAVIT. We are looking for volunteers to help us continue to move our passion forward and to make an actual difference. So if you're looking to find an organization that is about action, not about networking, come and find us. And then finally, I am on Instagram, although you'll probably see a lot of food pictures and a lot of dog pictures and potentially some sailing pictures.
Nice. All right. I encourage everybody, go get connected with Gina in all those ways, because she's a person that you want to follow for sure. And then finally, last question is, the old newscasters used to have a sign-off phrase at the end of their newscast, like "good night" and "good luck." Or now, people who hosted Weekend Update, have their way of signing off their broadcast. What is Gina Sansivero's drop the mic sign-off phrase?
I have no idea. That's a good question. I've never been asked to do something like that before. I'd probably do something simple like peace. I don't know.
That's pretty good.
What would you say?
Oh, I don't know. This is why I ask the questions on this show. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's a good one. There's been some good ones on the show, but you know what I'm saying? If peace is what it is, then peace is what it is. I'm Gina Sansivero, and peace.
I think it is. I would want something that's like super simple, but like has my personality in it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like you have to invite me on here again so that I can have an answer for you, because I don't think I have a good answer.
That's okay. That answer is still a good answer.
Okay. So invite me back, and I'll be prepared next time.
Thank you for listening to the AVIT Amplifier. Join us again for next week's episode when we'll welcome a new guest who you'll want to hear from. We promise. Your host has been Ryan Gray. He's on the tweeters at Ryan_A_Gray, or find him on LinkedIn to connect. Please subscribe and give the show a rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. This show is brought to you by higheredav.com. The views expressed here are not necessarily those of our respective institutions, employers, or sponsors. Everyone hang in there, go easy, and we'll be back next week.